All right, so this one is Thai milk tea, and I decided to use a pandan in here because green on orange just looks really awesome. Look, oh. I've been kind of dreading to make my own tapioca pearls or boba at home because, well, one, I've messed up quite a few times trying to make it before, and two, I thought it was gonna take forever to boil. Maybe it took forever to cook because I always bought the dried pre-packaged boba from the store. Fresh boba or tapioca pearls take only 20 minutes to cook, whereas the dried version takes like an hour to 2 hours. So I think let's go ahead and make the fresh ones. The biggest difference between tapioca pearls and boba is that boba is mixed in with muscovado sugar, which is kind of like a darker brown sugar. They're not the same thing, but similar. And after you boil it, it becomes that dark color that you're used to seeing. But some people do add black food coloring, which I don't think is necessary. You'll get a dark enough color from using brown sugar or muscovado sugar. Tapioca pearls, on the other hand, they stay translucent because they don't have the coloring from that muscovado sugar. So knowing that, today we're gonna make 3 different flavors of tapioca pearls. One is gonna be boba, so we're actually gonna be using brown sugar instead of muscovado sugar because, let's be honest, how many of you guys out there have muscovado sugar in your pantry? 2, we're gonna be using ube extract to make ube tapioca pearls. Ooh! And then 3, we're gonna be using pandan extract so that we can have pandan tapioca pearls. I just want to Filipino-nize things up a little bit. For those of you who don't know what ube is a purple yam from the Philippines, and it's known for its striking purple color and its very sweet flavor. Pandan is actually a leaf, and it's an extract that's typically used in Asian desserts. We used to put pandan leaves in our rice in the Philippines to give it a subtle aroma and taste. Okay, so first we're gonna make boba. First thing we're gonna do is heat up 4 tablespoons of water. So for the tapioca starch to actually mix in with the water and form a smooth dough, you're gonna need to mix it in with hot water. I've done it before where I just mix it in with cold water and the starch eventually settles at the bottom and it becomes this dense, flat layer, and you can't really do anything with that. While the water is heating up, add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. So when we use brown sugar instead of muscovado sugar, the boba itself won't be as dark as if you use muscovado sugar, but that's okay, it's still gonna taste sweet and delicious. All right, so here I have 6 tablespoons of tapioca starch. So I'm just gonna add a little bit at first, get it mixed in, and then I'm gonna dump in the rest. Mix this the best you can and remove any lumps, and then just dump the whole thing in, and then mix vigorously. It's gonna have some resistance to it. Tapioca starch doesn't require a lot of liquid, but it does take some work to actually blend it in with the liquid. So turn off the flame and then just keep mixing so that you can remove as many lumps as possible. If your mixture is a little too sticky, add a little bit more tapioca starch if needed. And if it's too dry, then add a little bit more hot water. Yeah, so it's gonna be kind of hard to scrape the bottom, but just do the best you can. All right, so this texture is actually perfect. All right, so just let this cool down just a little bit so you don't burn your fingers. This doesn't seem very fun at first because it's all like breaking apart and there's a lot of resistance in the pot, but once you knead it out, it'll be smooth and pliable. Cool, so just gather this all up. It's still a little bit warm, but you do wanna keep it warm because once it cools down, it starts to become a little bit harder to roll out. So just knead it until it becomes a smooth ball. So the color doesn't look very dark now, but it will darken a little bit after we cook it. And it's actually getting smoother with each press. This shouldn't take too long, maybe only like a minute or 2 of kneading. Cool, so this is what it looks like just after like a couple minutes of kneading. It's a lot smoother and not as lumpy. Now we're ready to roll it out into a log. So what you'd want to do here is to roll it out as small as possible because these will expand after you cook it. This dough is still a little bit warm, but it is cooling down now that I'm rolling it out. So make sure you work as quickly as you can. Depending on the thickness of your boba, it's going to take a little bit longer to cook. So if you want it to cook a lot faster, make it as thin and small as you can. If you want a little bit bigger boba, just keep in mind that you might have to add a few more minutes to the cooking time. All right, so this one's done. It's not perfect as you can see here, but it'll do the job. And then we're gonna roll this one out too. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by how easy it is to roll this tapioca starch mixture out. So this is pretty forgiving. You got 2 long strings and you just want to cut it as evenly as possible. It kind of looks like dog treats. So after you cut them, just separate them so that they don't stick after you cook them. What you can do is you can take one of these and then you can roll it into a circle. And there, I've got a little boba circle thing. I'm looking at this pile and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to do any more work. I really could just dunk this into a pot of boiling water and be finished in 15 to 20 minutes. Tell me in the comments below, are you guys gonna be team lazy like me, where you're just gonna leave these the way they are? Or are you gonna roll them into these perfect little balls so that you can have perfect little boba in your drinks? Let me know in the comments below. So my boba isn't really sticking together, but if it is, you can go ahead and dust it with a little bit more tapioca starch before you start boiling it so they don't clump up together. So here's my pot of boiling water. It really doesn't have to be a huge pot since we don't have a lot of boba pearls. Ideally, you'd want there to be enough space for them to boil and not stick together. Once the water starts boiling, dump your boba pearls in, and I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. The boba is done cooking, so I'm gonna drain the water from it and then we're going to soak it in this sugar water mixture. So I'm just gonna put in 3 tablespoons of water and then 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. So we're adding sugar to this just so more sugar can seep into the boba. So if you soak the boba in here for at least 30 minutes, it's gonna get sweeter than how it is now straight out of the pot. Okay, now here is our boba. So you're probably gonna be like, wait, that's not cooked because there's this white stuff in the middle. That's just the way it looks like. I'm trying it right now. It's cooked through the middle. So it looks like it's not cooked, but if you chew through it, you'll find that it is actually cooked through, despite the color in the middle. You can actually use this boba right away. I think it's sweet enough, but if you want it to be sweeter, or if you're not gonna use it until later, then make sure it soaks in this sugar water mixture so they don't stick together. So just mix them together to separate them a little bit. They kind of got a little stuck together after I drained them. There's your boba pearls. So these guys are ready to go. Now we're just gonna take care of the ube tapioca and the pandan tapioca. Okay, so for the ube and the pandan tapioca pearls, the difference between this and the boba recipe is that we're not gonna use brown sugar, first of all. We're just gonna use normal sugar so it can get more of that translucent color. Also, we're gonna be using ube and pandan extract. Okay guys, pay attention. This is really important stuff. The extract that I use is butterfly. Got them off Amazon from Jan's Foods. I'll go ahead and put the link in the description below. Hopefully you can snag some of these because they're kind of starting to sell out. People are hoarding these. Stop hoarding things, people. Okay, so just like the boba recipe, we're gonna put in 4 tablespoons of water and then 2 tablespoons of plain white sugar. So this will be a little bit sweeter compared to the brown sugar, but the idea is I just want to be able to add these tapioca pearls into my drinks right away without soaking them in the syrup. It is better if you soak it in the syrup, but like I said, if you're lazy like me, you can do it this way. So same as before, just mix the sugar well until it integrates into the water, and then we're going to add the ube extract. All right, so I'm just gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of boba extract. Ooh, look at that color. All right, and then just add a little bit of tapioca. Oops. All right, dump in the rest. All right, and then same as the first one, you just wanna do your best to mix this as well as you can. I've found that it's a lot easier if you're like pressing the tapioca starch down onto the powder versus if you're just stirring it. At this point, you can turn off the heat and then continue mixing because it's still gonna stay pretty hot. Okay, now this is ready to be kneaded, but warning, this may stain your hands, so you might wanna wear gloves. For me, I don't really mind. I could just use my hands and have it purple for a couple days. Okay, so touch it, see if it's a little too hot for you to handle. If it is, just wait a few minutes for it to cool down, but if you're ready to start kneading, then go ahead. Okay, so it's kind of sticking to my hands a little bit, so I'm gonna add just a little bit of tapioca starch. And like before, just knead this as well as you can, and it really does not take long. Ew, its color kind of makes it look like a poop log. All right, now just roll this out into the thin logs. Ooh, I can tell these are a little bit stickier than the first batch of boba that we made, so we're definitely gonna need some tapioca starch to keep them separated. All right, so just cut them up. Oh no, these are kind of sticky. I'm just gonna pick out the ugly bits and then roll them out. There's a lot of ugly ones though, so it's gonna take some time. All right, there you go. They're not gonna be the perfect circles that you'll see at the boba spots, but they still work. Same thing as the boba, we're gonna take these ube tapioca pearls and we're gonna boil them for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're ready. Okay, our ube tapioca pearls are ready, so we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the boba pearls and create a mixture of sugar and water that it can soak in. But for this one, we're gonna use white sugar, so we might wanna use a little bit less. So I'm gonna put in 3 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of white sugar instead, since white sugar is a lot sweeter than brown sugar. If you want, you can just have plain water. You don't have to have additional sugar. Here is our boba that's been cooked. They're starting to stick together, so put them in this water mixture right away. So in the water that this boiled in, it turned the dark purple, and you can see that the purple is coming out into the sugar water mixture as well. All right, perfect. Okay, and finally, we're gonna do the pandan one, and it's gonna be the same exact thing as the ube tapioca pearls, except you're gonna be using 1/2 teaspoon of pandan extract instead. So let's go through the steps. If it's starting to feel a little bit sticky while you're kneading it, go ahead and add some more tapioca starch. It'll make your life so much easier when you start cutting it up. Whew, finally, there we have it, our pandan tapioca pearls. These ones were extra sticky, so don't be afraid to use as much tapioca starch as you need to keep them from sticking together. The excess tapioca starch that's coating it, it will come off once you start boiling it. They kind of look like little crystal candy things. Okay, so these are ready to use. Now it's completely up to you how you want to use them. If you want, you can just make your own milk teas at home. A very simple milk tea recipe would be to steep very strong black tea and then top it with either milk. You can top it with condensed milk, sugar, or honey, or whatever sweetener you want to use. If you're Filipino, you can go ahead and put it on top of taho. Taho is an extra soft tofu dessert. So in the Philippines, there's a taho man that comes by, walks up and down your street and calls out taho, kind of like an ice cream man, but we're having a tofu dessert. So he comes by and he's got his tub of extra soft tofu. You've got a kind of like a brown sugar syrup, and then you've got the sago pearls. It's different from tapioca, but it's kind of similar. So I'll show you what these tapioca pearls look like on top of a few drinks and also the taho. So this one's at the hot with the ube tapioca pearls. I actually eat the hot without sago or tapioca pearls because I'm too lazy. I just want the tofu. But man, having the tapioca pearls in here, it just brings it to a whole nother level. I have to say with the ube one, you can't really taste too much ube in here. You taste a lot more of the syrup and the taho. So it's more of a neutral tasting flavor. All right, so this one is Thai milk tea, and I decided to use a pandan in here because green on orange just looks really awesome. Look, oh, Wow. Oh, I just love the pandan flavor. So the pandan flavor in the tapioca pearls, you can taste a lot more than the BOBA tapioca pearls. And this goes really well with the Thai tea because pandan just goes well with other Asian flavors. I highly recommend trying this at home. Oh, it's so good. And then this one is just a standard black milk tea with the boba. Nothing crazy. Doug liked it though, because this is him, he drank this much. So you can store tapioca pearls and boba in the fridge for a few days, submerged in this syrup. However, you do want to eat this right away because the longer you store it, the harder the texture of the boba will become. So after seeing that whole process, knowing that it does take some labor, but it only takes 15 minutes to cook the boba, would you rather make it at home or would you rather buy the ones from the store that you have to boil for like a couple hours? Let me know in the comments below. So I hope you guys found that recipe useful. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss other weekly videos that I release on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you next week. Bye!